Hey class, welcome back. Right now, we're going to talk about our project for the week. We're playing with value this week, so if you haven't watched the value lesson yet, I highly recommend you go back, check that out, give that a whole watch through, and then come back to learn about our assignment. These are two examples of what the finished project could look like. Again, we're playing with values, and so here we go. Let's show you how we started this thing, though. There's going to be a handout where you found your previous handouts, except in the week 3 folder. It's going to look a little bit like this, or exactly like this, really. And our objective is we're going to be combining 4 letters of our name with 4 letters of an adjective that we choose that describes ourselves to create a grid of shapes in order to fill them in with varying degrees of value. If that sounded a little confusing, don't worry, I'll break it down more. So on this top row here, you're going to go ahead and put 4 letters of your name. It could be your first name, your last name. It's really up to you. And when you're putting your letters in, each box only gets 1 letter. Okay. Now, the first column here, going top to bottom, you're going to put in that adjective. Again, a 4 letter adjective. Give you some examples of how I want you to draw the letters nice and big. Is this handsheet? This is a handout right here. It also has a word bank of 4 letter adjectives. You don't have to use these adjectives here. You can come up with your own, but they're here in case you can't think of any. Above here in this grid of the alphabet is showing examples of how big and bold we want you to do your letters. We want them to make sure they're hitting at least 2 to 3 points of the box you're drawing them in. And please don't put a straight edge along any side of the box. The letter could get lost in it that way. Let me show you a work in project piece, give you a little more context for what we're doing. So this is mine. This is how I started here. So since I'm Mr. Holmes, I decided to do my last name. So I did HOLM across the top. And the adjective I decided for myself was bold. So I did BOLD along the first column. Now we're kind of creating a matrix here. So in this first matching box, I drew an H shape and a B shape, kind of combined them both. And you notice I turned my B, rotated it about 90 degrees. Feel free to play with your letters, change them up, put them on their head, flip them, do whatever you want to create interesting looking shapes here. And then I went ahead and I colored in with my pencil. I just had a normal pencil, and I did different values in each of these shapes. We don't want to have the same value next to each other in the same box. Otherwise, they're going to start blending together. So make sure as you're laying down your values in each of these spaces that they're unique from its adjacent partners. This next box here, I combined my O and my B. So I made my O take up the entire box and I put my B inside of it, kind of playing with shapes and sizes. And notice that all the values here do not match their neighbors. And then you can see my next 2 squares, my L and my B, I combined them to make this funky shape. And then my M and my B. And I would continue to do that all the way down my grid, combining the letters. So this grid right here will have an H and an O. Let's take a look at this example. This is Mr. Van Dyke's. His adjective he chose for himself is tall. Now you see he combined his V and his T to create this really unique cross-section of shapes here. And all his values are very different from the ones that are adjacent to it. Here's another work in progress. This person decided to create their grid themselves. You see they used a ruler to create their grid lines. Looks very sharp, looks straight, looks symmetrical. And then they combined their letters already for all their grids, and they started coloring it, valuing them in already too. And here's my final example. So I went through the whole project, combined the letters and the grids. So down here, this bottom right, I have my M and my D. And I played with the M. I push it all the way to the left side of the box to kind of create a dynamic effect and playing with the letters here. And again, all the values are different to the ones adjacent to it. All right. If you have any further questions, feel free to email me. Otherwise, have fun, everybody. And I look forward to seeing your finished project.